Good morning, all. The centerpiece of the visual arts at Newark Academy is our Tiger Gallery. Monthly exhibits offer professional and student artists the opportunity to share their work with all of us. But we set aside the month of January for the annual Newark Academy Community Exhibit. Each year we pick a concept, a word, or a phrase that might spark the imagination and entice you to make a work of art for this special exhibit. We welcome submissions from all of you. You needn't be enrolled in an art class right now in order to participate. And all members of the NA family are welcome to submit work. Students, faculty, staff, alumni, parents, you're all welcome to get involved. You may recall that last year's exhibit was titled Figuratively Speaking. Well, this year we hope to fill up the gallery with works that relate to the nature of things. And so this morning I will illustrate how one could approach this theme from a variety of perspectives. And I'm going to show you some works that are very accessible and things that you could launch into making art as a result of looking at this work. And then I've also, as is my way, added some very unusual pieces that may be well beyond the scope of what you could make, but I think they're very interesting, fun to look at, and I also think they'll inspire you. So let's begin by looking at art that features nature. Ansel Adams was an American landscape photographer and an environmentalist known for his stunning black and white images of the American West. A member of the Sierra Club, he was contracted by the U.S. Department of Interior to make photographs of our national parks. His body of work and his persistent advocacy helped to expand the national park system, and as a result, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1980. American painter Georgia O'Keeffe was deeply interested in the natural world. She specialized in these large format paintings that showcased flower blossoms that were featured as if under high magnification. You may recognize this work. Her work is quite famous, these pieces. But most of O'Keeffe's 2,000 plus works mainly featured landscapes, bones, rocks, shells. She painted in any weather, contending with strong rain, wearing gloves, setting up rigging tents and tarps. And she was still at it in her late 70s and continued to produce work until her death at the age of 96. Brian Corhages, in his series entitled Earth, explores the idea of the sacred mother as the matriarch of all living things. Corhages uses flora and vegetative growth to construct forms and faces of women, and he speaks to the current culture of accountability and the sincere need for respect and understanding of women in today's world. While working as a toll collector in Paris, Henri Rousseau taught himself to paint, and he was inspired by the jungle, but he never went to the jungle or saw the jungle. His sources of imagination were illustrated books and many visits to the zoo and botanical gardens in Paris. This work is really unique, and it became very famous. Tomas Sanchez, one of the most influential and widely celebrated Cuban painters, is known for his breathtaking landscapes. These works portraying lush vegetation, pristine displays of the magnificent of the lyrical universe, giving them a certain meditative quality, almost otherworldly quality. So now let's look at art that is infused in nature. Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water has been described as an architectural tour de force. He believed that human buildings and architecture should harmoniously connect with and benefit the land around it. I couldn't resist showing you Robert Smithson. He was famous for being one of the first to undertake land art, also known as earthworks. In Spiral Jetty, he constructed this giant swirl out of mud, rocks, and salt crystals, jetting into the Great Salt Lake in Utah. The earth disappears and then reappears, depending upon the precipitation and the tide. And every time it reappears, it's slightly different. And it reflects the transient changing nature of the earth. And another piece by Smithson that I think is very cool is very unique. It's 400 metal rods placed apart in the middle of a big empty field in New Mexico. And these metal rods attract lightning fairly often, since they are the tallest thing around for miles. And visitors are invited to spend the night in a cabin that was built there, giving people time to wait for lightning to strike. And this artwork reflects the power and unpredictability of nature. Emotionally laden phrases meet unnatural contexts in sort of these environmental landscapes devoid of human life. And this is the work of Korean artist Jung. She forces the viewer to question what happens when language is displaced from its original context, enabling the viewer to find their own way into this sort of bizarre world, to have their memory stirred, to consider what it means to be alive in time. We can even spend some time looking at art that's about the nature of nature. This Japanese artist has been sculpting with fog for 50 years. Yes, you evidently can sculpt with fog, designing dreamlike settings all over the world, from Tokyo to Paris. Nakaya calls fog the most generous of medium, allowing collaborations with those who walk through the work. The rain room is an immersive environmental of perpetually falling water that pauses wherever a human body is detected. The installation offers visitors an opportunity to experience what is seemingly impossible, the ability to control rain. This work uses science and technology to create experiences that aim to question and challenge the human experience within the machine-led world. And I was fortunate enough to enjoy the rain room when it was installed in the Los Angeles County Museum of Art in 2015. It was very cool to walk through this piece of work. When talking about an art show that's called The Nature of Things, creating a still life really fits the bill, and food and drink are often the items portrayed. But take a look at some of these other compositions that focus on things not usually featured in still life. Hall Grote believes that painting has the potential to reveal the extraordinary within the mundane, and by linking diverse still-like forms in the same image, he visually connects both our consumer-driven culture with our natural environment, in this case, an ice cube with a monarch butterfly. I often share with my students that this notion of pulling two unrelated objects together in one piece can make for very strong work that can be whimsical and also intriguing, as in these examples by Brandy Bowman, Scott Fraser, and Kate McDowell. Mundane things can seem more significant when captured in the right way. One could create a self-portrait through the depiction of your things. Or you could focus on things with a theme. Klaus Oldenburg is a Swedish-American pop sculptor, best known for his public art installations, typically featuring very large replicas of everyday things. Many of his works were made in collaboration with his wife, Kusje van Bruggen, although in the male-dominated art world of the time in the 60s and 70s, she rarely got credit. By the way, you can actually walk across this spoon bridge. Stepping into one of Chiharu Shihota's installations is akin to entering another world, one rife with haunted beauty of ghostly objects and half-forgotten narratives. In this piece, Key in Hand, she references the journeys that individuals make throughout their lives. The installation is comprised of a massive network of red thread that strings up 50,000 keys alongside the hulls of two wooden boats, as if to symbolize the relationships between the memories of individuals. And then there's the nature of things or phenomena or elements, like the nature of gravity, the nature of fire, the nature of water, the nature of earth. The New York Earth Room is a work by Walter D. Maria that's been on display since 1977. I've seen it many times. Dirt fills a 3,600 square foot area and reaches 22 inches deep. And every week, a caretaker, the same caretaker, by the way, for the past 40 years, waters and rakes it. The room doesn't do anything you can only see it from one vantage point, and you can't walk onto it, although you can reach out and touch the soil. But there's something about it that makes you stand still and keep quiet, letting the cool, earth-scented air wash over you. It's really quite an experience. So, whether you represent nature or things, or the nature of things, I hope you will consider submitting a work of art to the 18th Annual Community Art Exhibit. We will be accepting works January 19th through the 22nd upon returning from the 2 weeks of remote learning. And that wraps up my presentation, as all good things come to an end. Or perhaps this was too much of a good thing. In any case, thanks for listening, and I look forward to seeing what you create.